Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Perspective with Itu. Boom, 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 boom. Today we have a very special guest joining us, darling. PJ Powers. Like, oh my God, where do I even start? An iconic South African singer and songwriter. Known for her powerful voice and socially conscious music, PJ Powers became one of the country's most successful musicians during the 1980s and 1990s. Her popular songs like Jabulani, World in Union, and There Is an Answer have resonated with fans across generations. PJ Powers has not only made her mark in the music industry through collaborations and numerous awards, but has also actively championed philanthropic causes, using a platform to advocate for social change and upliftment in South Africa. Today we have the privilege of delving into PJ Powers' journey, exploring her perspective on mental health, true happiness, and the unique insights she brings as a legendary figure. What an honor. Without further ado, let's welcome PJ Powers to Perspective. Welcome.
Thank you so much, too. I'm thrilled to be here and already inspired.
Sure. And thank you so much for inviting us to your home.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
You have such a beautiful house.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
What an honor and such a privilege for us here. I mean, I don't even know where to start.
You're all welcome. They're all good looking. How did you get together such a good team?
Wow.
Yeah, I was going to say, well.
Oh, my goodness. So, PJ Powers, before there was PJ Powers, there was Penelope, Jane Dunlop. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us how it was growing up?
I was a very, first of all, my mother had 3 children in 3 years, mm-hmm. and then 5.5 years later, she fell pregnant with mm-hmm. me. And my sister, she had 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine my sister was the little princess.
Yeah.
And I don't think it went down too well when another girl arrived. I mean, another person arrived, it was bad enough. But another girl, I don't think was extremely sort of welcomed. I'm not so sure that my dad was even overexcited about it, because he was a businessman and he was like, I've had my family, now I'm going to get on with my, with climbing the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
And, but my mother adored me, and but I was always, I'm 6 foot tall, mm-hmm. and I've now slimmed down, but I was always othered as a child because I was very different. I was 10 pounds 9 ounces at birth, so go figure.
Yeah.
So I was always, and I wanted to become a singer. When all my, you must understand, talk about purpose. When you find your purpose in life, it is the most extraordinarily liberating feeling on the planet.
Yeah.
And I knew my purpose from the age of 5, and which was to be a singer. But it also othered me immediately from all my other friends who, little 5-year-old girls are wanting to become nurses or doctors or maybe lawyers, or, like little boys want to become firemen and, and policemen and all of that kind of stuff, or a soldier. So when I would say, no, I want to be a singer, it was like, so my entire life, my inside was, I felt very, very different from everyone else. I've managed to surround myself, obviously, in my adult life with like-minded people. Mm. So I think that resulted in me having been quite lonely as a young girl. Also physically, because I can show you pictures of myself where I am standing. All my friends are coming. It's like all of us standing in a line, and I'm this much taller than they are.
Sure.
So it was, but my life was good. I was a happy child. I was a people pleaser. Everybody had to be happy in the room, and it was my responsibility to make everyone happy in the room. I still suffer from that a little bit. I'm trying desperately to get over that. But I think I was quite similar to the person that I am now, in a way. I think the trajectory, I wasn't sort of this young, very quiet child growing up who then expressed themselves in music. I am by nature an introvert, but with extrovert qualities. So I've always been fine socially. And I think that little Penelope was not that different, except for the fact that when I transitioned to PJ Powers and then Thandeka, so there's been so many names, because for me, Thandeka is not a nickname. It is a very precious name that was given to me. And so I think what I did do, perhaps, was which I'm now in therapy trying to catch up, is I left Penelope behind in order to create PJ Powers. Yeah.
How did being the other child and that affect your low self-esteem, like growing up?
I think that I've suffered with low self-esteem my whole life and still do. In a way, it's something that I've come to accept and embrace. There are times when I'm very proud of myself, but I never really. I mean, on Saturday night, I never ever am about to do a concert when I don't think, I wonder if I can still sing. And people are telling me I'm singing better now than I ever have. So I think that it affected that low self-esteem is a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, I think it is the thing that pushes me. I think it is the insecurities. I don't think that overconfident people get that far in life. I think if you look at the greatest talents in the world, I mean, I'm not only talking about singing and the arts, they are driven by something. And if you look that little bit behind them, invariably it's a sense of, I've got to be the best. I have to be the best. Whereas if you think you're the best, you have nothing to prove, really. And I do believe that. So it's where I'm. I've tried in my adult life to draw on the insecurities and use them to fuel what it is that I do for a living, which is to really. I've never been on a stage when I haven't tried my absolute hardest. If there's been 70,000 people in the audience or 13 people in the audience, they get the same amount of energy, because that's the creed I set up for myself when I was very young.
So it's simple to say that then you are then fueled and driven by your purpose.
Yeah, I'm fueled and driven by my purpose. But, I think that adversity has defined me. It is the things that I've done wrong. It's the failures that I've had. And the things that I think they are what have formed me as a person. I don't think success necessarily has formed me as the person I am today. I think it's the failures, the disappointments, it's all the horrible things in life that we really don't want, that because they put us out of our comfort zone, that have taught me to be somebody that wants to grow with and always remain relevant.
Oh, are you comfortable to share some of those failures with us?
Sure. I mean, I was an absolute failure academically. I didn't see the point of school because, of course, I wanted to be a singer. And my parents had the money to send their children to really good schools and then on to university. And when my father said to me, so what are you going to do at university? And I said, no, I'm not going to university. I've read the last book I want to read. And when I got my matric, I remember asking him in standard 8, I said, please can't I leave school? I kind of know what I want to do. He said, you're not going anywhere until you get a matric. So I got the matric. And it wasn't from a lack of intelligence, it was just I wasn't interested. I really, really wasn't interested. Of course, there's not an example for young people that are listening. But and then when I said to him, I don't want to go to university, and he was like, what are you going to do? And I said, I want to be a singer. And he said, well, what's your plan B if that doesn't work out? I said, my plan B is not to have one. Because then I have to succeed. And for the first years, it wasn't easy. I mean, he got a court order to try and bring me home before I was 18. And, but I was determined. I was passionate.
Sure.
I didn't care about the money. I knew that the money would follow if I followed my passion. And then, of course, probably one of the biggest challenges that I had to face. You know, people often say you were so brave with your anti-apartheid, and you were put into John Foster Square, and you were pulled in. That wasn't, for me, that wasn't brave, for me. But other people tend to think it was, for me, it was natural. People talk about their pet hates. My pet hate is injustice. I hate it when it happens to me, and I hate it more when it happens to other people.
Yeah.
I must be perfectly honest. When something is unjust, I can't really control myself. So that was part of what made me who I am, because I knew that the system was flawed from a very young age, and my parents didn't hide it. They told us how flawed the system was that we were growing up in. But I think that my first real challenge came when I got into the boxing ring with alcohol. So we'll say cheers with a bit of, and my sister drinking with me here in solidarity with a bit of cranberry juice. But absolutely acknowledging these lovely bottles of wine up here, my friends are going to completely enjoy. I have been sober for 14 years, so I have a full bar in my house. But it was one of my biggest challenges, because it's one of the things was it didn't come easily. I was in 5 rehabs. I ended up drinking my own hairspray because there was alcohol in there. And in rehab, you learn there's alcohol in in mouthwash. So you'll go anywhere to get. And I do remember my sister asking the surgeon or the doctor, because I had an alcoholic seizure, and I was rushed to hospital, and she said, "Is she going to live?"
Sure.
And he said, "I don't know. We're just going to do everything that we can." And it's amazing what human nature is like, because I remember being terrified, having been preoccupied with suicide for a couple of years, because I was so unhappy, but I couldn't stop. And I suddenly got the biggest fright of my life when I heard that. But not a big enough fright to 3 weeks later have another glass of wine.
Sure.
And that was the last drink I had. Was that glass of wine, because I thought, what are you doing? Are you going mad? And still, it's probably, it's the most down I was, you know. Sure. It was, I drew my curtains. I wasn't going out and drinking. I wasn't having a nice time while I was drinking. I was just staying in bed for weeks on end and just drew the curtains. And I would only get up or try to get up and to try and get alcohol, you know. When I sobered up, I had to go and when I sobered up and started earning money, I had to go and pay back all these bottle stores all around where I lived, because what I did, you know, I lost my house, I lost my car, but I'd walk to places and they'd know who I was, you see. Because I was there, this was after Jabulani, after Feel So Strong, after all of these huge hits. And after World in Union. So they knew who I was. So I would say, "Oh, I forgot my wallet at home. Yeah. Can I just get some stuff and I'll and they would always say yes to me.
Yeah, of course.
Because it was PJ. There's no way she would. And I would fill up a trolley full of stuff.
Sure.
And make my way home and get into bed and not surface again. So it was a really, really dark time. And if ever I'm tempted when there's a celebration or all of that kind of thing, I always think to myself, just rewind that movie to the chaos that your life was in, you know.
Sure. Well, firstly, congratulations for being sober for 14 years. I think that is absolutely amazing. And those that watch my show will know that I'm always having a glass of wine. But with this show, I was like, you know what, I'm going to stand in solidarity with you, and we will both have the cranberry juice. I mean, it's amazing anyway, right?
I'll get my friends to watch this program because they don't give a damn. I was just saying to the guys, it's always like, do you want to come with us? And as one of these guys said to me, do they want you there or do they want your car? It's my car. And it's my driving skills because I'm the designated driver.
Well, don't worry, because let me tell you, my friends use me as well because I don't stand in a queue, right? Because because I'm physically disabled.
Okay.
So now my friends will like call me like month end, and they will be like, "Hey, friend, I just want to go and buy some groceries. Please just like come through," because they know, right? We are not going to stand in a queue.
You're not going to have to stand in a queue. Yeah.
But how did it lead for you to get to a place where alcohol was sort of like your something that you leaned on like for so long, and what was the reason that you were trying to sort of like escape that reality?
That's the exact word, escape. I really to this day don't think that it was the alcohol I was addicted to, because for many years I drank when I was happy. Then when I started to drink to get happy.
Sure.
That's when it became a problem. And that's when I crossed that sort of invisible line. People say, when did you know that you went from being people loved me at parties. I was like, I was like the happy person. I'd have a couple of glasses of wine and I'd dance until I dropped. And you know, I was a happy drunk. I really was. And there was nothing wrong with my behavior.
Yeah.
But I crossed that line when I started, and of course this is in hindsight. I crossed that line. Instead of drinking when I was happy, I drank to get happy.
Sure.
And that's my advice to people is, if you ever find, it's fine to come home from work and say, oh God, I need a glass of wine. But if you ever find that you're drinking someone interesting, because let me tell you, you can drink anyone interesting. You can drink anyone beautiful. You can drink any situation bearable. But when you start using that as a medication as opposed to something that you have fun with, I would really take stock and start thinking, hang on a second, what is my motive? Motive is is an incredibly important thing in life. And my motive for drinking changed.
Sure.
And then it was just, and fast.
But also, like, what made you so not happy? Like, what was it that made you so unhappy?
In desperate insecurities, lower than low self-esteem. People say to me, Thandeka, how can you, PJ Powers, how can you possibly have insecurities and low self-esteem? I've never really felt enough.
Sure.
Still today, I go through periods in my life where I think, am I really enough? Am I enough? Do I deserve? I have a Facebook following who is so incredibly loyal and so incredibly, they know what's going on in my life. And it's not about, I'm not interested in the quantity of people I have. I'm interested in the quality of my interaction with those people. And, I read things that people say about me, and I'm shown so much love right across the board by all South Africans. Predominantly black, because obviously the black people were the people that gave me my break in this country. And it was black people that was the first time that I ever felt unconditional love, in Jabulani Amphitheatre in 1983. And I see the love that I'm given. And I think to myself, if only I could just believe this. If only I could just believe completely what people are saying, And maybe I never will. And maybe that's not a tragedy. Maybe I will live with some kind of insecurity for the rest of my life. But maybe that also gives me the power of vulnerability. And the power of insecurity, and the power that not thinking you're always right gives you. It gives you the power to learn. It gives you, I think that what I have learned is there are two sides to adversity.
Sure.
There's the thing that happens to you that you think, damn it, why did that happen? And then if you look on this side, there's the part that you learn from.
Yeah.
And it is a true privilege to learn.
Sure. I want to share my story quickly. So growing up, I was obviously mocked and teased, and I was called franchise names and KFC, Chicken Licken, you name it, bright meat, and it was absolutely terrible, to a point where I then tried to commit suicide 3 times. I felt like I'm not enough. I felt like I'm not beautiful and I'll never be beautiful. And I remember one of the things for me that made me feel like, you know what, screw everybody else, is that I had to start intentionally building that thing for me where I had to say, but actually you are enough. And the first day I said it to myself, it was so tough. It was one of the most difficult things that I've ever done. In fact, for the longest of years, I didn't even look at myself, in the mirror, because I wanted to pretend like I looked in a certain manner. And I had to sort of like build that enoughness for me first. And I think when I did that, that is when I became unstoppable, because then I started seeing my own beauty. And today, I still have the very same scars. I still have one hand and one finger. But I think I'm the most beautiful girl in the world, because...
Let me tell you something about you. I hate to interrupt you. But you, whatever it is you do, you need to do life coaching as well, because you are just inspiration in a package. And it's not because of what you look like. You ooze what one could be.
Yeah.
If you get your act together, that's what you actually ooze. So I sit here listening and hanging on to your every last word.
Sure.
I would love to interview you one day. I really
yes,
would.
Please.
Yeah. I mean, you're just incredible.
Being interviewed by PJ Powers, darling.
It's absurd.
So I think my message is you are enough. And get the power of vulnerability, because we are the amazing people that we are today because of what we've been through. But yeah.
And humility.
Yeah.
I think a person with no humility, I think, is the ugliest person on the planet.
Yeah.
Really, somebody that has no humility is an unattractive person.
Sure. And we have a lot of those.
Very many.
Yeah.
Too many, especially in my industry at the moment.
Sure. But also I loved what you said earlier on, when you said that people sort of put on a certain character to hide their low self-esteem problems, to hide their vulnerability. So that you are a successful musician, and therefore I can just act out this person who's got things on lockdown, but deep down that you don't, right?
Well, yeah, yes, absolutely. And I think what it is I'll never forget when I first went into the AA rooms, and one of the catchphrases that was going around was, fake it till you make it. And I was like, I don't know about that. Hey, I don't know whether I agree with that. But if you tell yourself, and you will know this, enough times that you're enough, enough times that you're beautiful, enough times, if you don't wallow, I don't wallow in any of this. That's one thing I will say.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of victims. And if you tell yourself, you do burn a new neural path, in your brain, where it becomes automatic. So then I understood what it meant. Well, fake it till you make it. Basically, they were saying, pretend you're having a lovely time when you're not drinking. Even if you're not, pretend you're having a lovely time. So one day I was in a situation where I thought, I'm having a great time at this party, and I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
Until it became a reality, But as I say, I do believe that that all this adversity, I don't believe God gives us anything we can't cope with.
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes I want to tell him to slow down.
Like,
I just say, whoa, don't pass that ball just yet.
You know? Yeah. Do you now look back and you are proud of that choice that you made, even though everybody else was calling you the other because you chose music, and now, blessed for you, it actually worked out. So now, like, you're like,
Yeah, I do. I am proud, and I'm only human, so there are people that I was at school with who were getting 90% while I was like scraping through on 50. You know.
Yeah.
And I want to say, where's Rosemary Wood? She was one of the women. She was like a genius at school, and she sort of looked at me like, oh, here comes this dumb, you know.
Sure.
And I think to myself, I wonder where Rosemary Wood is now. I wonder what she's doing with her life.
Yeah.
You know, so because I'm only human, but I am proud of what I'm achieved, and I am looking forward to the lots of other things that I need to achieve, because one thing I do know is that when eventually I leave this life, I want to have done the most that I can with the life that was given to me. I want to be able to really, really say, you tried your hardest and you did your best.
Yeah. As a legendary musician, you have experienced tremendous success. However, behind the scenes, artists often face challenges with mental health. How have you navigated your own mental well-being throughout your music career?
Drugs. No. In all sincerity, I am on antidepressants. Yes, I do take them, and I do take mood stabilizers. I go for resilience therapy, and I've been in therapy for 7 years now, but on and off since I was a young girl. And still going to AA meetings, but my mental health is, I do suffer from depression, which nobody understands unless you do. That's the terrifying thing about depression. You've obviously been depressed,
19 years.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, nobody understands depression. They say, you know, I come from an English background where it's just not, it's like, oh, come on, pull yourself together, you know, or sayings like, at the end of the day, you're your own psychologist. I come from that very, very stoic, you know, you don't show other people your vulnerability and all of that. And I do believe, but you can't just be going out and getting a myriad of all sorts of things. I have a cocktail that I am on, that I have been on for the last 5 years, and I am stable.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love that.
I am stable at the moment, and I have been for a long time.
I love that. We often hear about the glamorous side of the music, but what are some of the less discussed pressures and sacrifices you've had to encounter on your path to success, and how have they shaped your understanding of what true happiness is?
Glamorous and show business. It's amazing how so often those two words come in one sentence, because, I mean, I don't want to demystify this whole thing, but it's just there are times when it is the most unglamorous thing in the world. The downside of things are, for example, if I want to, I'm learning to do it now, rush up to the shop to suddenly buy a few things. Like, for example, I was terrified just now because I thought I'd run out of milk, and I offered all of you coffee.
Yeah.
You know, so just rush into Spar or rush into Pick and Pay. My own self-pride, I don't think anybody necessarily out there expects me. My own self thing, I will quickly put on, not the makeup I've got on now because I'm being filmed, but, you know, I'll quickly put a bit of whatever and go out with it, you know. And I know that Alicia Keys is on this whole no makeup. I'm like, dude, if I looked like you, Alicia Keys. I also wouldn't wear makeup, but I don't. You know what I mean? I mean, she's one of the most beautiful women on the planet.
Yeah.
But so that's the downside. There's no popping out. There's no. But I need to qualify when I say downside. These are the cons of fame. Is that when you're in a restaurant. You know, do you remember a song coming out called Hey Fatty Bum Bum?
Yes.
Ding, ding.
Yeah.
Sweet Sugar Dumpling.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes, yeah, I remember that song.
When that song came out, I was like, I wanted to eat it, because that's what people used to say about Hey Fatty Bum Bum as I was going up the escalator. But I mean, I was much younger.
Yeah.
But I think that there is that you're in a restaurant and you're about to have something to eat, you know, and you're about to put it in your mouth and somebody says, oh, please, can I have a selfie? When, I tell you what, when cameras went onto phones,
sure,
my life changed. So did every other artist in the world. So did everyone's lives change.
Yeah.
Mine was, you know, it's just, you know, it's absurd because everybody wants, you know, before you would scribble your name on a piece of paper, now it's not like, oh no, I don't look that good in it. I'm like,
wow.
Who gives a damn? It's just me and you together, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, those are the downsides of having of fame, that you constantly on a state of manifestation.
Sure.
That's how you have to be. That's what people expect. The good side, you know. That's why these artists that say, oh, I'm just so sick and tired. You know, every time I go out, everyone just comes at me. And I want to say, really? Go out 3 times and let nobody recognize you.
Yeah.
You will come home and you will cry like a baby.
Sure.
Because we all love we all love affirmation and be told, you know, hi Thandeka, love you, or hi PJ, what a great voice, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But the downside is when people think that because they've seen you on television and because they support you, you're theirs. And I've had instances where I've been physically pulled from one side to a room to another to meet someone else, you know, to meet a family member. I've also had people treat me as if I think I'm a big deal. So they are really nasty because in their minds, they think I think I'm a big deal. So they're going to show me that I'm not. And I'm like, I don't think I'm a big deal. The upside of all of that is I don't stand in queues. Girlfriend, yes. Again, I get into full restaurants, and I wouldn't swap it for love or money.
Yeah.
But there is a downside.
Yeah.
There is most definitely a downside. And I think very often the downside is tiredness.
Sure.
Because that's what you are, especially when that's the image that you gave from when you were, you know. And that's what people expect. I mean, people think I'm like the Statue of Liberty.
Sure.
Meanwhile, I'm not. I'm like this big, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure. And how has that distorted your own happiness? The bad side of it.
The bad side of it is I assume that people want to know me because I am famous. And unfortunately, very often that is the case. I have learned to have an incredible radar, which sometimes I think is completely out of all proportion. That, you know, I think this must happen to terribly wealthy people. You know, they only want to hang around me because I've got a whole lot of money. You know? And I think the same thing is with fame and people will say, I know you. And I want to say, no, you don't. So I think that that can be very lonely making. And what is very hurtful is when you assume that somebody really is there. Partners that I've had. That I've realized only in hindsight that they were there because I was PJ Powers.
Oof. And how does that affect you?
That's sad. That's very sad.
Sure.
That's some of the most hurtful stuff I've ever been through. That's the kind of stuff that distorts your mind and you start thinking, am I good enough? I mean, what would this person greet me if I was in PJ Powers, you know? Would so-and-so smile at me if I, you know? And, you know, fame, it comes certainly with the price.
Oof.
But that is hurt when I've known that actually that was all I was good for.
And I can only imagine how that sort of makes you want to push people away.
Oh, definitely. I was involved with somebody who absolutely adored PJ Powers, but actually didn't like Penelope, didn't like, the fragile part of me. If I shed a tear or something, oh, come on, stop crying now, it's not you.
Oh, my God.
That kind of thing.
Sure.
And let's face it, we all have, if anyone out there, male or female, that says that they don't cry is lying. Because you don't have, it doesn't have to manifest, but sometimes you can cry inside.
But also I was saying at my previous episode that I am a very strong person, but I cry a lot. I cry at everything. I'm a weeper. A good movie,
I think
cry.
strong people cry.
A good story, I cry. And I had to embrace crying because crying is actually power.
Yeah.
Because when you cry, you're actually cleansing your soul. And I've learned that when you keep things in, you're blocking your soul. And when you cry, you let things go.
I'm going to use that the next time somebody tells me, why are your tears so close to the surface? I said, listen, I know this chick called the Tumalin. Now let me tell you what she told me.
Oh, my word. PJ, your songs have resonated with people for decades. How has your music evolved to reflect the changing landscape of mental health concerns and the pursuit of happiness in today's society?
I have tried to loosen up a little bit because my songwriting has always been, I couldn't have been born into the South Africa that I was born into. And I would have had to be really, really an unconscious human being to not draw on what was happening around me, particularly when suddenly I'd written a simple love song, which was a rock song. I had no plan to do Jabulani and Feel So Strong and Mapansula Jive. And I was getting my influences from America and from the UK, and I was writing sort of soft rock stuff. And then suddenly You're So Good To Me became this huge hit on what was then Radio Zulu, Ukhozi FM.
Ukhozi, yeah.
And suddenly I was invited to play in Soweto. And suddenly I was exposed to Ladies with Black Mambazo and Sipho Hot Sticks. Look, I'd always been, when I was a child, I never got a hiding. My mother used to do 7 singles. My mother used to hide them. I had 2. I had the Click song and Pata Pata were my 2 favorite songs.
Yeah.
And then she would hide them for a week. I couldn't play them.
Yeah.
But that was as far as it went. I adored Muzzy, Miriam Makeba. When I met her years later, it was my biggest thrill. And then suddenly I was exposed, and then I was at Jabavu Stadium, and I suddenly realized, hang on a second, why am I looking out there for this influence? There's this music, and I just fell in love with the rhythm, with the soulfulness, with the truthfulness, and the stories, the storytelling. And I think that because of that, social justice became a very relevant and very necessary theme for my music. How it's changed is I've loosened up a little bit now. I don't feel like I have to solve anybody's problem, so I can throw in the occasional love song, the occasional, and it's not all about me. People think that you write love songs when you fall in love. You don't. You write your best songs when you fall out of love and you're sad. Believe me, the best songs are written when you're down. It's, happy songs are not. But I think that in the changing times, I like to surround myself with young people. And I think you can't not write about what's going on around you if you are responsible. You are an artist, and you have chosen to look at the theme of and that's come from your reality.
Sure.
And my songs come from my reality and how I've grown up, who I've grown up with. So that's my reality.
Sure. You mentioned a lot of big names, Miriam Makeba, Sipho, Hot Sticks, and so forth. And I'm sure you've shared stages with a lot of these people that we see as legends, and so forth. But what are the meaningful conversations that you guys have behind the stage where you're like, you know what? I love you, but come here a little bit. Let's have this meaningful conversation, about what true happiness is, mental health, self-esteem, and what you guys go through in the media industry.
Strangely enough, musicians are quite shallow.
Sure.
If I'm honest, Steve Kakana and I, we always had proper conversations. I mean, Steve was my friend. I was, damn COVID is all I can say. But, and I really did. I would have some really sound discussions with Steve. Rebecca Penelope is somebody that I always respect and always love talking to, and she's always, Yvonne and I have always been friendly, Yvonne Chaka Chaka, but the deepness of our conversation, most of all musicians are wrapped up in what they are doing, especially in a festival situation. So the friends that I've made, are sort of really deep friends that I've made through the music world. Claire Johnston from Mango Groove, she's somebody that I can have a deep conversation with. I adore Judith Sapuma. I just love her, and I'm so happy for her at the moment because she's doing some wonderful things all over the world. But deep and meaningful conversations. One thing I learned, I'll never forget Johnny Clegg when he was still alive. And, Johnny and I were the only two whites that were in the townships at one point. And I'll never forget, I came off stage and there was this bunch of old drunks. And they were saying, Thandeka, come, we want to. And they were spitting and behaving like you cannot believe.
Sure.
And I was like being quite sweet. And this is when I was about 21. It would not happen now.
Yeah.
And I sat downstairs I sat down in the, outside in the tent and everything. And Johnny was laughing. I said, why are you laughing? So he said, you are such a racist. I was furious. I said, what? He said, tell me something. If those had all been white guys, what would you have done? And it actually went kick up and it fitted. It suddenly, I thought, you see, you never stop learning. If there'd been a bunch of white guys, I would have gone, listen, you guys, I don't want to say this on right now, but you know what I would say.
Yeah.
But it was all, and that, I was grateful for that. I was grateful for once at Jabavu Stadium when Johnny pulled somebody up out of the stage. I mean, I learned from Johnny Clegg. And he pulled someone up like this, and he hit them like this, across the face. And I thought, dude, you're playing with your life, man. There's 60,000 people out there. And you know what? The crowds roared. And they all went, yeah, because this guy was misbehaving right in front of Johnny.
Sure.
He was being rude and whatever. And then I learned the true meaning of being a racist and unconscious bias. I think that whites in this country, and I think all of us to a degree, I'm not only talking racially, have unconscious bias. We do. It's like the story of the husband and son that were in a motor car accident, and they both were rushed to the emergency. This is this is how to explain unconscious bias. They were both rushed to the emergency rooms in a hospital, and the doctor arrived, and she went in. The doctor arrived and went in to see them. I've ruined it now, but the doctor arrived and went in to see them and said, I can't operate on either of these people. And everybody said, why? Why? And people immediately said, what does she mean? And the doctor turned, and somebody said, well, why? Because you immediately in your head, you think that the doctor is going to be a man.
Yeah.
And the doctor said, because I'm their mother. I'm the wife and the mother, And that's unconscious bias, When we think of a president of a country, we immediately think male.
Yeah.
And we're surprised when it's a female.
Yeah, it's when it's a female.
Do you know what I mean? And that unconscious bias is something I'm working on at the moment with myself, that I try not to have any kind of unconscious bias. And Johnny, just to answer your question, he taught me that all those years ago. Ooh. But I'm not friendly with too many musicians. Zwei Bala I adore. Zwei can make me laugh like no other person on the planet.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Zwei is really funny, and he's just, he is, you know, like my brother.
Yeah.
But I think Steve was the closest musician friend that I had, that we would have philosophical discussions.
Sure. Looking back now with the conversation that we're having, how important do you think it is to have these meaningful conversations with people that you think may sort of like get where you are coming from? Like where you're like, you know what, I can't even find a good man because of who I am. And they're like, I know. You know what I mean?
I think that secrets keep you sick.
Yes.
I learned that.
Yeah.
Secrets keep you sick. So I am quite open about my life and my challenges. And I think it's very important. It's very important that you have people that you trust.
Yeah.
And that you can confide in.
Sure. I love it. So we have come to the end of the podcast, but I do have the last segment, which is to ask you about your perspective on various things. But the last question that I have for you is, Penelope, you've got 2 hands, you've got 10 fingers. Are you reaching your full potential?
No, not yet. And I hope I never say yes to that question.
Sure.
I really do. I hope that my movie's coming out next year.
Nice.
My book is being released next year. I hope that when you ask me that question in 10 years' time, or you remind me of that and we meet up and I still don't say, no, I've reached my full potential.
Sure.
Because no, I don't want to ever reach my full potential. I've learned something today meeting you.
Sure.
You know, I've learned something big and something really relevant meeting you today.
Sure.
So for that, I thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
And I mean that from my heart, because I don't say anything that isn't in my heart.
Yeah.
I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Sure.
So if I'd reached my, then I'm full. I've got nothing to learn.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want to not learn.
Sure. Oh. Perspective number 1. What is your perspective on self-love?
It's vital for you to love anyone else.
What is your perspective on power?
That it's misused badly. And power is a great thing if used for the right reasons.
Yeah.
But absolute power corrupts absolutely.
What is your perspective on spirituality?
I think that it is impossible for us to operate as human beings thinking that we are it. It is extremely powerful and all important for me to have a higher power.
Sure. What is your perspective on true freedom?
Freedom has got to be free. If freedom comes at a price, it's not worth it.
Sure.
Like Janis Joplin said in her one song, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose.
Ooh.
Freedom ain't worth nothing, hun, if it ain't free. And that's the truth. Freedom's worth nothing if it's not free. Never forget standing in a queue in Mozambique after independence, and this woman turned around to another woman standing behind her. People were starving and said, you wanted freedom, now eat it.
Sure.
So freedom's got to be free. Can't come at a price.
Ooh. And you spoke about purpose a lot. What is your perspective on purpose?
Life without purpose is a life sadly, badly, unhappily lived.
Sure.
Purpose is, it's the purpose. If you don't find your I feel terribly sorry for people that don't find their purpose in life. Very sorry. Your purpose can be your garden.
Yeah.
Your purpose can be whatever, but you have to have a proper purpose that drives you.
Penelope, I'd like you to please take that mirror right next to you.
Oh, I hate you. I was wondering why this was so strategically placed. Yeah. Yes. Oh my God, that's the big side.
Bring it on.
God, I can't be looking at the big side.
Oh my word. And my question to you is, when you look into that mirror, what do you see inside of you?
Besides my lines, I see somebody who tries their hardest and somebody. I'm okay. I'm okay. Thanks to you today. I'm okay.
Sure. Oh, love that.
That's the truth. I'm okay.
Love that. PJ Powers, aka.
Can I drop the mirror now?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
AKA Thandeka, AKA Jane, Penelope.
Penelope, I answer to everything.
A candle tried to burn me, it also tried to ruin me. But that very same candle lives within me, and that candle is shining bright. And I'm saying to you today, keep your light shining and keep shining.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say thank you.
Sure.
And I want to say thanks for waiting and for this was meant to happen a few times. And I'm extremely grateful that you guys kept on contacting me because this has been an extraordinary interview.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And from me, Mrs. Sekhu-Pedi, keep your perspective.